有，我係香港立法會議員、民主黨主席何俊仁。咁咧，今次嚟加拿大咧3日，咁咧主要咧都係同呢度會見一啲嘅朋友啦，包括到除咗傳媒之外咧，仲有係國會議員啦，同埋咧一啲關心香港嘅一啲嘅會友分子啦咁樣。咁咧就係希望咧透過今次嘅嚟呢度嘅探訪咧，能夠將香港嗰啲10年嘅發展嘅經歷咧，就同大家分享下我嘅睇法。咁當然最緊一樣嘢，亦都同國際社會係講清楚點解香港市民咧係要咁努力去到爭取民主，因為唯一民主嘅制度咧，然後先俾到我哋出路。唯有民主嘅制度咧，先至俾到香港咧係能夠有一個健全嘅管治嘅制度咧，係保障我哋嘅自由、人權同埋法治。咁當然啦，我知道民主呢一個價值咧，係加拿大嘅國民咧都會完全係支持同埋係擁抱嘅。呢個都係一個普世嘅價值。不過喺香港咧就唔係咁簡單啦，係一個非常之艱辛嘅奮鬥嘅歷程啊！我哋03年、04年50萬人上街嚟到作一個遊行示威，都係為咗咧提出我哋嘅強烈嘅訴求。嚟緊香港政府咧都會就呢個政制嘅發展咧係作出係諮詢嘅。嚟緊嘅日子咧，香港都係充滿住好多困難同埋挑戰。咁咧，我哋一定會繼續係努力為民主嘅理想嚟到奮鬥抗爭。咁當然我哋都希望海外關心香港嘅朋友啦，就係尤其是係一向以嚟同我哋一齊合作抱住共同信念嘅戰友咧，都會繼續俾我哋嘅精神支持。咁亦都希望大家得閒翻嚟香港啦，我哋傾下偈，俾多啲精神嘅支持同鼓舞我哋。多謝。
Great pleasure and privilege to be here to share with you my opinion on the future development of Hong Kong 10 years after the handover。各位朋友好開心咧，今日喺呢度同大家見面，就好多熟朋友咁喺呢度，大家咧係重聚咁使我大家睇好多嘅回憶就係以往一齊為好多個運動，大家共同努力。咁唯一一樣嘢使我啲不安嘅咧，就係見到咁多嘅人嚟到咧，原來要俾錢買飛聽我講嘢，我真係驚驚地，我最驚呢度啲其實。咁我正同 Gloria 講得唔好，咪要回水咁。咁 Gloria 話佢哋冇水回咩？即係點解啫？我同佢。不過正話唔可以就話佢話我哋香港冇呢個問題，即係冇人，即係唔需要擔心啲人係俾錢聽我哋講嘢，因為我哋需要擔心嘅就係啲人俾錢聽我哋講唔到嘢嘅，即係第二個問題。不過點都好啦我會盡力講啦希望唔會有回水嘅問題I'm very amazed to see many of you here to come for this dinner for the particular purpose of hearing our speeches about the future of Hong Kong, particularly knowing that all of you will have to pay for an expensive ticket. Now that may be quite varying because if I don't do it up to your expectation, you may ask for a refund. But the chair lady said that there's no question of refund, so eventually the duty would fall on me and Margaret to make good for any demand for refund. But in Hong Kong, we don't have such a problem because we would never worry about people paying to listen to our speeches. We would rather worry about people paying to shut us up, so that is another problem. Recently, I think in December last year, the chief executive, the newly elected chief executive Donald Young, made a report to Beijing, a duty report to Beijing, and in his meeting with the press, he said that Hong Kong was in the best of its time for the last 20 years. Now, that remark had immediately sparked a quite strong reaction in the Hong Kong community, because many people feel that how could it be right to say Hong Kong is now in its best time? Maybe just Donald Trump is having his best time, you know. But certainly not for Hong Kong people. In fact, Hong Kong, for the last many years, have been confronted with a lot of problems. You know, the severe economic problem, followed by the Asian financial crisis, then prolonged depression, high rate of unemployment, the collapse of the property market. Now, although in the recent 2 years, Hong Kong has been on the path of economic recovery, yet many people do not feel, especially those in the lower middle class and the grassroots sector, do not really feel that they are sharing in the fruit of Hong Kong's economic recovery and prosperity. Now, as a matter of fact, Gloria has just mentioned, although Hong Kong's income per capita is still ranked on the top, you know, in the global scale, but we are now facing the problem of a growing, widening gap of the rich and the poor, what we call disparity between the have and the have not, the rich and the poor. And the Gini coefficient, which is internationally accepted indicator of the disparity between the rich and the poor, has risen to an alarming figure of 0.525, which made Hong Kong rank the 5th in the whole world. Now, so that is something really causing us alarm and dissatisfaction. Now, further, Hong Kong, there has been quite a number of negative comments on Hong Kong from various rating agencies and international observers. Hong Kong has become less competitive now, and less attractive as a place for international investment. Now, these are due to a number of factors. Now, the interpretation of the basic law, which Gloria just mentioned, had taken place 3 times in Hong Kong. One, the first time in 1998, resulting in the overturning of a decision of the Court of Final Appeal. Another interpretation was issued by the National People's Congress Standing Committee in 2004, resulting in a decision of the NPC Standing Committee, negating the possibility of having not only universal suffrage of chief executive and all the legislators in 2007, 2008, but also any prospect of democratic development in these 2 years. And also, by this interpretation, the Standing Committee has invented a device whereby she can exercise complete political control over the whole process of political reform, which necessitate a change to the basic law or the annex or the annexes to the basic law. Now, another event is not only the perception, but the observation by many people that there is, in fact, evidence of collusion between government and business. Now, one glaring example is the Cyber Port incident, where the chief executive, then the CH Tong, saw fit to give the franchise or special right to develop this so-called cyber port, which is in fact a property development project, to a property developer, Richard Lee, who, as every one of you knows, is the son of Lee Ka-sing, without going through the usual process of tendering. Now, that has given rise to lots of these debates and controversies. But in 2004, the chief executive again made another attempt to try to afford the West Kowloon project, with the biggest that ever appeared in Hong Kong, to one or two developers by way of a single tender. Now, after a lot of debates and public criticism, the government eventually withdrew the plan. But the concern that there is collusion between the government and businesses, and the big businesses, or more particularly the chief executive and one or two particular tycoons, has become a matter of great concern. Now, also political controversies over the intended enactment of national security bill, which every one of you would know it as the Article 23 enactment, together with the continuing heated debate on political reform of Hong Kong, have also caused a lot of concern, not only to the local community but also to the international community, as to whether or not the government is competent enough to tackle this problem on its own. If you go further to examine the situation in Hong Kong, I think many people and observers would have come to the view that the inability or incompetence of the government to deal with all these contentious issues can be attributed to one major reason. The government, led by the chief executive, lacks popular mandate and legitimacy to lead Hong Kong, to lead public opinion, and to go forward with sufficient confidence and support from the general public. And all the more, it is the general feeling among many people that our government would unlikely be able to stand up to pressure from Beijing whenever there is a conflict of interest or a conflict of view between the Beijing government on the one side and the Hong Kong government on the other side. And in addition to that, the government is also unable or unwilling or incompetent to deal with the problem of poverty. Poverty has been an issue of growing concern. Actually, from the figures recently released from our Department of Statistics, we can see that the income of the lowest, the average income of low-income bracket has been on the decrease, and there are many people who are earning less than $3,000 per month, and the number of families who are classified as the working poor has also increased very substantially. A couple of decisions of the fact, that we are also having a growing disparity between the rich and the poor. So how is the government going to deal with it? It seems that the government has no will and determination to deal with this issue, principally due to the fact that the CE, the chief executive, basically derived his power from the election committee, which comprises mainly representatives from the commercial sectors, or basically pro-government or pro-Beijing or pro-establishment sectors. So this would make him terribly difficult to deviate from his pledges or promises given to his supporters during the election. So it seems that the chief executive is very much stuck in the present situation. So how are we going to go forward? Now, our simple answer, which is given to you based on our conviction, and I think our conviction is shared by many Hong Kong people, is that democracy is the only way forward for Hong Kong. We believe that democracy does not only represent a universal value which should be embraced by a modern international city like Hong Kong, but it also offers a system of governance which would provide us protection or enduring protection of our freedom, right, and also to the rule of law. And also it would give sufficient legitimacy to our government to lead Hong Kong forward based on a balanced consideration of the interests of different sectors in Hong Kong. And this would necessarily lead to the consequence that the chief executive, based on popular mandate, decide to take effective measures to alleviate the problem of poverty, to address the issue of disparity between the rich and the poor, to avoid collusion between, or at least the perceived collusion between the government and big businesses. In the last many years, Hong Kong has been sustaining a movement for democracy. According to the result of opinion polls that have been regularly released throughout the last 15 odd years, the pattern is quite clear. Approximately 65% of the respondents are in support of democracy in Hong Kong to be introduced and put in place as soon as possible. And actually, according to the survey result released in 2004, over 60% of the people supported universal suffrage of both the chief executive and all the legislators in 2007 and 2008. So I think political reform democracy has the backing of Hong Kong people. And we do believe that if the government, led by the CE, still refuses to democratize Hong Kong, the government would be in terrible difficulty of leading Hong Kong and to get out from all these difficulties we are now facing. If you ask whether or not I am an optimist or a pessimist, I would never be hesitant to tell you that in long term, I'm always an optimist. But of course, what we mean by long term is difficult to tell you. But at least, in the foreseeable future, we can see that Hong Kong people would have the determination to sustain the movement. And we do believe that the leaders in Beijing, who are now in complete control of the situation with regard to political control, will have to understand that without democracy, there can hardly be a better system to give us long-term and endurable prosperity and stability. We also believe that the democracy campaign in Hong Kong will not only serve the interests of Hong Kong people, but it would, again in long term, serve to promote and foster democracy in China. Now, at present, although the Democratic Party, together with the Civic Party, our membership, the membership can hardly exceed 1,000, the membership of both parties acting together. But yet we are the most organized democratic opposition in Hong Kong and also within the whole of China under the rule of the PRC regime. And in the last CE election, in which we fielded, where our Civic Party and the Democratic Party, our joint effort, supported Mr. Alan Leung as our candidate, I think we have succeeded in showing to the public that there is indeed a credible opposition in Hong Kong. Credible in the sense that Alan Leung, being our candidate, has shown and demonstrated himself to be competent, and also the alternative policies proposed by us are certainly credible. This is indeed very important because it helps to foster confidence among the public that in a democracy we can certainly have meaningful competition because there would be credible opposition and credible alternatives for the voters to choose and vote. Election itself, although it's only a small circle election and it does not engage the general public, but I think through the process we have succeeded in reminding the public that the government owed us the right to vote for the chief executive. And this right has been denied from us. Now lastly, we have a lot of hope on our civil society, which has been growing to be a more vibrant and dynamic society, civil society in the last 10 years. The July 1st march that took place in 2003 and 2004 had demonstrated the good quality of the Hong Kong citizens. And all the more recently, the civic awakening of the younger generations in Hong Kong, most of them are non-partisans, showing their interest in preserving the heritage of Hong Kong. For instance, the preservation of the Starberry and Queen's Pier has also, given us some new hope, in seeing that there would be more vibrant NGOs um, which is burgeoning and will be taking part in the whole movement. So, to conclude, it is meaningful for us to come over to Canada. In fact, I've been to Melbourne a month ago to inform the international community as to what has been happening in Hong Kong and as to why democracy is imperative for Hong Kong to proceed forward in a way to protect our civil liberties and to sustain prosperity and stability. Many of you have ties with Hong Kong. You still, love Hong Kong, although you're now also owing an independent duty as Canadian citizens to your country, but you still, have beautiful memories about Hong Kong. You still have a lot of sentiment attached to Hong Kong. Now, I hope in the future you would foster more exchanges between Hong Kong and Canada. And through these exchanges, I think there's a lot for us to learn from the Canadian experience with regard to democratic practices, with regard to many of your successful public policies, including environmental protection, including preservation of heritage, and so on and so forth. So I do look forward to joining hands with you in the future. Thank you.